Hello and welcome everyone to today's News Tonight, the weeknight news show where we're joined by special guests and our lovely patrons to discuss the day's gaming news. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined by my good friends and GVG co-founders, Ash Polson and Steve Bowling, as well as our very special guest tonight, Spawnwave. Welcome, good sir.
Hello,
Yeah, no
thank you for
problem.
having
Thank
me.
you for being here. We're big fans.
Yeah. Yes, I thought I'd take a shot at talking about the news for the first
And
time.
we know it's out of your wheelhouse,
Let's do
but
it.
we thought we'd toss you, a hard ball
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, just throw you a bone.
I'll get through
Yeah.
it. I think we'll make it work.
I think we can. But real quick, and just in terms of news, we wanted to quickly discuss something. And the fact that we're not going to be discussing something, we just won't be talking about stuff going on. If you know it, you know it. We're not going to be talking about it, and we're just going to be focusing on the news tonight. So there it is. So, other than that, how's everybody been doing?
Well,
Man,
you're a little tired.
Yeah.
Hanging in there.
I was,
It's been
It's
a
another
day.
day.
I was gonna say, if you're taking away all the stuff we're not talking about, I feel great.
Yeah,
Unbelievably good.
I'm excited because I got a fun thing coming out on Friday, and I'm looking forward to having that all set and ready to go. So
Nice. Yeah, I'm really
Yeah.
excited knowing what you have around the corner. Friday will be a great day to tune into GVG to check out what we've got cooking. We got a couple other videos coming up this week that I think will be really fun. But
seems
I
like
am
it's going to
most
be a busy
excited-
week.
Yeah, I'm honestly so far most excited about today though. I've said repeatedly already how big of a fan I am of Spawnwave. I'm not
He's
going to stop saying
fanboying
it
so
for the next hour.
I love it.
I am ready
Yeah.
for this episode. I need this.
All right. Well, let's see how he handles the news. I'm not sure, but we're gonna launch into this. And first up, right before we started, actually, Nintendo just tweeted out that there's going to be a new Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, almost said Furry there, trailer coming
Accurate.
tomorrow. That's a very different. Actually, it kind of fits within 3D World, and
Right? Actually
it's only
does,
gonna.
wow.
Yeah, it really does. It's only going to be 2 minutes long, and it's coming out, I believe, 9 a.m. Eastern. Let me double check that. But yeah, just out of nowhere, finally getting news on Super Mario 3D World, which is pretty cool. I don't think we're going to be waking up, incredibly early to cover this right away, but it's going to be like,
Right.
oh, that's neat.
We actually had a funny little anecdote before the show. I was like, oh my God, I already didn't sleep last night, because of all the stuff we're not talking about. And I was like, oh my God, we got to be up at 6 in the morning for Bowser's Fury. And Steve was like, hell no, what are you talking about? That's
Sleep.
That's not how we work here. And I'm like, oh, damn, you're right. We don't do that anymore. So, yes, there will be no getting up at 6 and reacting to a 2-minute trailer. But we will, of course, be breaking it down in the next TNT, of course.
I'm curious how much they're going to talk about in 2 minutes. That doesn't because they specifically say 2 minutes in the tweet, and that doesn't seem like a lot of time to go over Bowser's Fury and then maybe some quality of
Right.
life stuff they're doing, which includes the online multiplayer. It seems weird that they wouldn't just do like a little 10-minute or mini direct kind of thing for it and advertise that as a
Yeah.
live stream. It seems to me like they're not going to have everything in 2 minutes. But maybe they talk about Bowser's Fury here, and then they update that website that went live, and they put extra information about the online multiplayer, which we talked about before we went live here, might not be the multiplayer that people are hoping it is. That's my concern, is that they were very vague on it originally because it's going to be like a Super Mario Party situation.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm wondering about that because, and we mentioned this before when we went live, it's like Nintendo likes to give you what you want, but in a weirdly disappointing way every time. And I'm worried, same as you, that this is going to be a very similar situation where it's like, on the box, yeah, online multiplayer, that sounds great. And then it's some weird flavor thereof that nobody asked for. January games in general from Nintendo seem to be like the ones they don't put a lot of weight or effort behind, which leads me to believe that there is definitely some deeply underwhelming element to this game.
I mean, it depends on
Yeah.
whether this was delayed from last year because of COVID.
Yeah, apparently it was supposed to have been out
Yeah.
October,
Right,
somewhere in
right.
there, and they pushed it to February. So in a month it'll be out. But yeah, The 2-minute thing got me when I saw that, because I was expecting something about this game, and then they're like 2 minutes. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle the online. I mean, the potential is massive with online multiplayer for Super Mario 3D World. 4 people like running around, you just say, hey, let's jump in a room and we'll play through like half the game together today. Like that would be really cool. But if it's like challenges or something where it's like 10 challenges and you play through these 10-minute parts of the game, because I feel like the reason they didn't do it in Super Mario Party is because they were like, who's going to sit down for hours and play through what could be this very long and aggravating Super Mario Party game? Because a lot of the time people don't mention or talk about it. Sometimes the Super Mario Party games didn't finish, like they didn't end because people just got annoyed and turned it off or something, or it became obvious that someone was going to win, and they would just
I mean, there are those people in Among Us that don't get imposter, they quit for the random people. Right. So
yes,
and there's also unfortunately another nasty precedent here set with Super Mario Maker 2, whose online is just absolutely poor. I mean, there's really no other word for it. It's really bad, and that seems like something that they should have been able to nail. Nintendo and online, it's just always, you never know what you're going to get. You do know what you're going to get most of the time. Sometimes they surprise us, but yeah.
You're right, because we have like Super Mario 35, and like that runs pretty well, and it's like all these people playing together, like next to each other, throwing like obstacles and everything, and they're like, all right, let's 4 of us jump in and do Mario Maker 2, and it's like this weird laggy stuttery thing.
I played
a
ton of Mario 35, and I think I'm talking over 100 games, and I think I can count one time where I saw the game stutter once. So Nintendo clearly has the chops to do it. Mario 3D World obviously is a different beast of a game. It's, of course, it's a fully 3D game, 4 players, all that. But you have to imagine, if you're Nintendo, that when you advertise online play, people who know or have played 3D World, they're gonna want just regular online play. Like, just let me play the game co-op 4 players with my friends. That may not be what we get. I really hope we do, though.
But the one thing I want to point out is, if that is what we get, good Lord, this will be an amazing game to just play.
Oh,
This will be one of the best experiences for multiplayer on the Switch if that's what we get.
Yeah. It's God's gift to streamers.
That's true.
Yeah.
By the way, Octopuppet makes a great...
I was actually going to point that out, too.
Thing. Yeah, go for it.
Well, Octopuppet in the chat was saying, my biggest question is, what's happening to stamps without Miiverse? And that is a good question.
Really good question. Yeah.
Man, could you imagine if they just let you tweet out the images? Like, that would be... I would be down for Twitter stickers. Like, let me take a screenshot and then slap a stamp on it and tweet it out.
That's true.
No, that would be fun.
I feel like that could be abused, but, but, yeah.
Yeah, the online could be good, especially if you have 2 people on the same Switch being able to go online and 2 other people on another Switch. So you don't need 1 Switch per game session for each person. See, things like that would be really cool, especially now. Like, in these times, I feel like a lot of people want the ability to play something like this online together, since everyone obviously is at home and just kind of hanging out. So I think that being able to kind of virtualize the local multiplayer they had is almost key to this game's development to make it feel a lot different from the Wii U version.
Yeah, and I mean that's a great point, because I know that as much as I adore Smash Bros. Ultimate, and it's like my favorite in the series easily, the one thing that was a downgrade from Smash 4 was that you can't do multiplayer on the same system when you're playing online. In Smash 4, you could have 2 players in the same system in an online lobby. Smash Ultimate, for whatever reason, you can't do that, and it's so annoying. And at least, it's not as annoying now in the era of COVID, but it was really annoying. So I really do hope that is something. I should say it's not as annoying if you don't have a sibling or whatever to play with, whatever. But I hope that they will do same system multiplayer online. I think that would be a very good thing for them to have in there. And then, of course, there's also the game's namesake, or the other part of the namesake, which is Bowser's Fury. We don't know what this is. They've been so coy about it and so secretive that I'm tempted to think that it's something holy crap awesome, but I'm also this could just be Nintendo being Nintendo, and it's just a few more levels. And that would be cool too, don't get me wrong, but it's just weird how secretive they've been about what Bowser's Fury actually is.
I am so hoping it's playable Bowser.
Yep.
Like
I can see that. Or
either
prequel
where Bowser's trying to capture the Sprixies, or a epilogue where he's like aftermath of him falling from the final boss area and I guess dealing with something else. I don't know, but I want to play as Bowser for some reason. I just really want to do that.
I like that. Mm-hmm. That's a good idea. Flip everything around, and you're technically the bad guy. Yeah. That's a good one. That would be cool to see that, especially after the end of Odyssey. Have something like that to follow up on for you to play as Bowser here. That's a cool idea.
Oh, go ahead.
I think we saw in the Bowser initial trailer for this a Cat Mario in the middle of that weird area when they were talking about Bowser's Fury.
Yeah.
Maybe the goal for each level, if it is level based, is you're playing as Bowser chasing Cat Mario.
Oh, that could be fun.
So I don't know.
That could be.
I don't know. But playable Bowser is the dream for sure. That would be like.
That's probably. I feel like that's what the 2 minutes is going to be tomorrow. Is them talking about Bowser's Fury, and that's probably going to be it.
Maybe some online stuff, but yeah, generally, I think you're right. Before we move on, I just want to say welcome to Sean Davis in the chat, long-time watcher, first-time live watcher here. I really hope the full game is online with trying to get the crown and everything like in the multiplayer of the Wii U one. Had a ton of fun with that. So Sean Davis, thank you so much for joining us. We're happy to have you here in the live audience. Also, DJ Bass, I don't recognize your name, so welcome to you as well.
A lot of new names here. Rad's Rich. There's a lot. Brooke.
Yeah, so welcome to everyone who is watching for the first time. We're really happy to have you here, and we really appreciate your support.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and get our next news story.
Alrighty.
And the first thing, it's staying on Nintendo because a Switch revision was data mined from the recent firmware update. And a lot of details were kind of found out. So according to this, Nintendo is actually working on a new model with upgraded display stuff, and it has been for about 1.5 to 2 years. The new hardware is codenamed Aula, A-U-L-A, and it's using Americo SoC. There's a bunch of references to it in code, and the atmosphere supports the new display already in theory. So apparently there's a bunch of other details in here. I'm not sure how much of it's just guesswork or actual stuff they're seeing in the code, but what we do know is that there's apparently new hardware codenamed Aula.
Right, and I was reading that apparently that signs are pointing to it being 4K or at least 4K compatible. I mean, of course, this is all from a data mine. Nothing is official until Nintendo announces it, but it could be 4K, but I don't think we know that for sure yet.
Yeah, Spawn, you have a great video on this on your channel, so why don't you break this down a little for us and let us know what you think on this.
So I followed up on this a bit more since then, just a bit, and the key takeaway from this story, this data mine that's happened, is it's confirmed seemingly to have a different screen. So it's not using the same vendor. So the screen is going to be something different, it seems. Now, it could be a higher quality LCD of some kind. They mentioned OLED because it's using a different power delivery as well, and they're just trying to speculate a bit. So that's the OLED part's not confirmed, and Ash, you're right, the 4K part's not confirmed either. But there's a chip they found, it's Realtek, and it deals with 4K media, so like upscaling and stuff like that. And they're not sure where the chip is located. So it could be in the dock. It could be on the board. So we could be dealing with an upgraded dock, as an example, like it's speculated way back when, where it's like, oh, Nintendo might, do something with the dock so that the video will be upscaled for your TV. Because, I mean, a lot of people have 4K sets now. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, especially now with the PS5 and the Series X and all these others, they're coming out now. And they're pushing 4K. And TVs now for 4K are just a lot easier to attain. They might not be the highest quality TV, but you can go get one for like $200 some odd dollars now, less than the system for most times. So it seems like the big takeaways though is that the display is different in some way. The chip, at least when they had called the chip or like put a command in to see what the chip was Mariko when it came back. But there's also the possibility that what was found here in the firmware, because they mentioned it's been about a year and a half, could have been like almost a prototype or something being worked on in R&D, because they may be just cobbling parts together to try to emulate basically something they're shooting for. So if NVIDIA, for example, is making a chip custom from the ground up for this, just as an example, it's still compatible with the games now. I don't think they're going to all of a sudden break away and give us the next gen Switch in 2021. they might not have it available to them now, but they can play around with the Mariko chip and have this other chip next to it to help and kind of replicate what they're aiming for. So it's possible what they found is just something that they're working in R&D, but it does sound like some Switch revision of some kind is coming later this year.
It's kind of been an open secret now for how long, but go ahead, Steve.
Right.
I was going to say, I definitely wonder what approach Nintendo's going to take to an upgraded Switch technologically. Like, 4K is one of the most interesting claims that I hear about an upgraded Switch. One, I mean, I don't think there's a chance in hell that a 4K Switch achieves that resolution in handheld mode, which I think lends credence to the idea that whatever is helping it hit those high resolutions is built into the dock, because you wouldn't need it any other time. And I have to imagine, because NVIDIA is the one involved with this, that if we do get some form of 4K content on the Switch, it comes via DLSS. You know, basically like very advanced machine learning powered upscaling rather than native rendering. Because, I mean, look at that PS5. That thing is about 18 switches in weight. But and you know, again, native 4K has a much larger power draw, has a much larger thermal, increases the thermal envelope of the Switch to an untenable degree. So I could definitely see Nintendo, if they go this route, if 4K is a real thing on the next Switch, it has to be like powered via some form of, I don't want to say trickery, but clever engineering, not just your straightforward grunt horsepower type of move. That being said, this has to be, I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. This comes from the Switch firmware. So it's not like it's a rumor. It's not like it's, but again, I agree with Spawn that we're talking about hardware that is probably like an R&D experiment more than indicative of what you're going to see on store shelves in the near future, or in the far-flung future for that matter. Because I can't imagine a Mariko chip inside of an upgraded Switch. I mean, that's what's in the ones we have now, the increased battery life model. So pushing that to give you better graphics just doesn't seem feasible, because the increased overhead or the increased power just couldn't get you those kinds of gains, really.
Mm-hmm. I am not a hardware guy. I've never been a hardware guy. I hear a lot of these terms and I'm like, I have no idea what the heck you're talking about. But as Luxiel in the chat pointed out, Aula is Portuguese for class or lesson. So hearing you guys talk about this, is it possible this is just sort of testing for the possibility of a Switch Pro, where they're just trying these things out to see how they kind of work, and whether or not they like, okay, we this kind of works, we'll focus on this aspect, and this sort of works, now this doesn't, we'll cut this out and try this, that sort of idea. Is that possible? Is that a thing? Or am I off base?
No, I think you're on something there, because a lot of these systems, when you see the dev kits, sometimes they're just PCs, and we never see what they look like outside of hearing descriptions of them. Sometimes we do. I think with it might have been the original Xbox. It was just a PC. They literally just loaded parts into a PC chassis and just sent them out, and they were like, all right, you test on this. So there's a good chance that like this Aula Switch we're hearing about, it honestly might be this really big tablet looking thing or something, and they're just testing games. Because there's a story a little while ago from, I think it was the New York Times. They mentioned that there was word that in the background Nintendo was telling developers, hey, just prepare your games for 4K going forward. Now that could be, okay, if you're starting a development cycle, it's going to be 3 years. Look, in 3 years, the next Switch will be out. So you might want to get ready for that. But it could also be like updates to existing games that maybe Platinum would help work, like Astral Chain as an example. Maybe they're like, hey, get a profile ready, because we're going to do 4K upscaling. You want to make sure the text doesn't look grainy or something. Right. Just make sure it's scaled to 4K. Because you'll see that in tricks, like Xenoblade does it a lot, where Xenoblade might be 360p, but the text is still 720 or 1080p, so you can read it. So I think you're right, though, Derek, with that. I think it's very possible that Aula being meaning class or classroom could legitimately just be them testing different things with it. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's coming.
Yeah. And
regardless.
Steve, I think by the end of this year, by holiday, I think we'll be all probably playing on a new Switch who wanted to get it. But I think Steve's also on with DLSS as well. I think they'll have to figure out a way to fit tensor cores onto the Tegra. but they've apparently already started doing that with some of their chips in these Jetson boards. So I think that's something that we might see, is them legitimately strapping tensor cores to some Tegra that they came up with that's still compatible with the current games. I don't think they're going to all of a sudden just start developing games for this Switch like right away, because they have like 75 million Switch systems now that they would leave behind.
Yeah,
I don't think they want to splinter their market like that.
Exactly. I don't see them, saying like, oh, hey, these games run only on the Super Switch or whatever they're going to call it. I definitely see them highlighting performance gains in original games on this thing. Like, everybody knows Breath of the Wild chugs in certain areas. If Nintendo would have my money if they showed me somebody walk into the Sacred Forest, pull the Master Sword at 60 FPS, I'd be like, yep, all right, cool, sold. Here's.
Well, what if they had Breath of the Wild 2 ready to go next to it, and then they showed a big trailer for Metroid Prime 4 taking advantage of technology.
Well, in that case,
there you go.
I'm smashing the glass case at the store and leaving the money where the Switch was.
Yeah,
I'm not taking the time.
I hope like a name like the Super Switch is not the worst we can hope for, because I swear to God, if they call it the new Nintendo Switch, I'm gonna throw something.
You know what though? I'll be honest.
Naming schema.
I am hoping that we get Super Switch and that they call it the Super Nintendo Switch. Like, I just want those SNES vibes from this thing.
Oh, nice.
They might just go with the most basic marketing and just call it the Switch 4K.
Yeah, that's true too.
Just the most basic marketing.
That way they know.
Yeah.
Give me just the Switch box with that ugly like gold 4K UHD badge they put on TVs.
Oh god.
I don't care.
Yeah. Yep.
Romsky113 says the Switch. Oh god. Imagine if they brought the Wii branding back.
What's really interesting is we could be seeing this Switch revision coming up. That could be a 4K system, but like DLSS will work up to 8K even. So we could go through the next couple of years with this revision that's a 4K Switch. And honestly, Nintendo's next-gen system could end up being an 8K system, as weird as that sounds.
It's possible because ostensibly, Switch is a handheld system, and Nintendo is known for many, many revisions on their handhelds. So this just lines up with it. This might be our 3DS Lite or DS Lite or whatever you want to do.
And there are so many games that I'd love to just revisit with improved performance. Like you were saying, Steve, Breath of the Wild by itself, I would love to revisit. Age of Calamity. I mean, Age of Calamity, I'd be happy to play through. As Urbosa, especially. Just let things fry with all these lightning attacks with Urbosa and just let it all happen and not almost break the game.
The one thing we're not talking about, though, I really would love an OLED screen on the Switch. I mean, handheld mode is good, but man, if you had like a really high-end, high-quality screen, and Ash, you know what I'm talking about. You just bought an OLED TV yourself.
Absolutely.
Man, the black levels on an OLED screen in handheld mode would be amazing. I would take 720p on an OLED and feel fine.
Same.
My only concern with the OLED in the handheld is it's a lot of times it's harder to use that outside. True. Because like it's not as bright. I almost thought because of that they could go with something like mini LED. That might work for them if they're looking to upgrade. I like the idea of OLED because like the Vita 1000 looks amazing when you're using it in the right game. It looks great, but mini LED is something else. They might be able to get that one even cheaper, like mini LED. But so many phones have OLED now, it wouldn't shock me necessarily. It sounds like a super high-end feature, and technically it is, but it's not like completely out of reach, I think, like people are believing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited to see just whatever the handheld tech in this thing is.
And the original Vita, the Vita 1000 model has aged like fine wine. That thing is still so beautiful just to behold.
It still looks high tech, doesn't it?
Really just looks amazing all these years later. And so, to have something like that on the Switch would be incredibly exciting. And I'll take reduced visibility outdoors, for that. I'm willing to make that sacrifice.
I'll be honest. I don't really use my Switch outside that much anyway, so I'd be fine with OLED. Yeah. But
when you said that, I was like, "Are we the dude from the original Switch trailer playing Breath of the Wild in the park?" Like, I've never played it outside.
Yeah,
it's always like my wife wants the TV, and I'm just like, "All right, fine, I'll play on the small screen for a while."
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. Toss that up here. So, we finally have details on the English release of the Ask Iwata book. and that is actually coming out on April 13th. So not too much longer. It's coming out from Viz Media, of course, and it's going to be 176 pages long and cost $23. It's up for pre-order now, I believe, as well. So yeah, the Ask Iwata book is on its way, and it's a hardcover too. So cool.
I'm getting this.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Same.
Already
I need to
pre-order
Thank
pre-order
you. I'm so excited.
Yep. Immediately. There are some really cool, like, the only time we'd really get any kind of real excerpts out of this is when, like, IGN or Nintendo Everything or something would translate it and then post it. And a lot of times it was super interesting stuff. So to think about getting the entire book in a hardcover, like, yeah, I'm really happy they did hardcover. And it's not even, like, crazy expensive for, like, a hardcover book like this. I think it was, like, on sale for $20, I think, is how they have it. So, like, that's not bad, I think. That's out in April. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to go through it. It's 176 pages.
Yeah, this is one of those rare books where it sounds like a lot for me, but I will read this thing cover to cover because Satoru Iwata was just so incredibly interesting and singular in the world of games, especially when you talk about the fact that he was, an executive, the top executive at the world's most well-known gaming company, and he's just, he's fixing bugs in Smash. He's just, he's writing new compression algorithms for Pokemon. The dude is just a legend.
Saving Pokemon, making the best part of Pokemon Gold and Silver.
Yeah, it's just incredible what he managed to accomplish in his unfortunately short lifetime. And I literally idolized the man. Like, I could not, I could not in good conscience not buy this book. So yeah, what I'm really hopeful for, because I know a couple times during his tenure at Nintendo, they did live Iwata Asks segments at like various Japanese trade shows. And I hope that those are included in this book. I have no idea if they are or are not. I'm buying it anyway. I just hope those more obscure Iwata Asks are available in there.
Yeah, they just describe it as like developer interviews and recollections from different developers, and like Miyamoto's in there apparently with a lot of different memories, and that should be really cool. I don't know. I'm interested to see what's in there
too.
Yeah, I'm so glad this is being localized. I hope it's localized into. I think actually this is in the chat. Guillaume Monet. So I hope it also gets translated in other languages. But I'm already happy with English. Yeah, Iwata is somebody. No matter where you are in the world, he was such a brilliant, wonderful man, and his words and his memories deserve to be digested by anybody who wants to be able to do that. And
it could really inspire some new developers.
Exactly. Yeah. And like you guys have all said, I had just have so much immense respect for the man. To say nothing of all of his technical accomplishments, any manager who takes a pay cut to avoid having to lay off employees when the company's falling on hard times, that's it. And that's on top of all the incredible technical accomplishments he achieved. But that, to me, full stop, that is like the true mark of a great person. And he's absolutely one of my heroes, and I can't wait to read this book cover to cover, like you said, Steve.
Yeah. Wow, man, I need to go out and pre-order that as soon as we're done recording tonight, because that is high on my list.
Yeah, I forgot to do that, but I do need to. I think that would be really interesting to discuss in some way.
I'd like to say this would be our first book-related discussion, but I have a video planned about a book that is going to surprise a lot of people and probably disappoint me a lot along the way. But we'll talk more about my.
I think I know what you're talking about. So, that'll be something.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh no, please finish your thought. I have something unrelated.
Gotcha. I was just going to say, Griff puts it here, and the chat puts it into perfect focus. I cried when he died. A CEO of a multinational company. Yeah, so did I, by the way. And what other? Yeah, people don't typically care about suits, executives, CEOs. I had
to report on that news, and I had no idea how to do it. What tone do I strike? What do I say? Because I didn't know what I was doing, so hopefully I did all right. But that was a rough day. Yeah, that was a rough day.
I watched that video that you made, Derek, and I was like, man, I can't imagine how raw you were when you were recording that, because you can hear the sadness in your voice. So yeah, it was definitely, and it was one of the harder ones for me to watch, because of course when Iwata passed away, like I took in every piece of media surrounding that I could, just because it was the only thing on my mind. Yeah, just an incredibly unfortunate loss for gaming, and for honestly anybody that has ever played a game. Iwata, was a huge influence. So I'm really sad that he's no longer with us. I'm glad that at least this bit of his legacy is we're able to have this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to our next bit of news.
Oh, hold on. I have one thing.
Oh, right.
Like 8 things is what I should say. So, I mean, there's a lot of new people in the audience. So if you don't know, I like to shout out breaking news, which is when patrons join or upgrade during the show. And that's been happening at an unprecedented rate lately.
Wow.
But I wanted to call out Charlie Bird editing their pledge from 10 up to 25, joining the executive producer tier. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for your contribution.
so much,
Thank
Charlie.
Octopuppet going from $5 up to 25, joining the EP tier as well. Brooke editing their pledge from $5 up to $10. And that is to say nothing about the huge amount of brand new patrons that have been joining during the show. I just want to say a quick thank you to you all. I know there's a lot of new people joining us. We appreciate your support. Each and every one of you is super important to us. And for those of you that joined new tiers, welcome to the producer or the EP club. We're glad to have you.
Indeed. Thank you all so much for your support. It really does. I mean, we've said it so many times, but it does mean the world to us. And we'll say it as many times as we need to. We cannot be thankful enough for your love and your support.
And I'm sorry, I have to shout this out because it happened a couple days ago. My good friend BJ Bovia, who works at Viz, also joined the EP tier. They did it when we weren't even broadcasting, but I wanted to shout you out. I love you, man. I really appreciate that, and I can't wait to talk about Dragon Ball with you soon. Whenever I get to see the chapter you're working on.
I didn't realize your friend worked at Viz. I'm wondering, because a good friend of mine named Rob Pareda is also he works at Viz, and I'm just wondering, BJ, if you know that name or if you're aware of him, because he's a good buddy of mine. So if so, small world.
Yep. Cool. I mean, what else can I say? Right. Yeah, I was like, let me just go hook up here, like meet up for drinks later. Either way, let's go ahead and jump back into the news. And the next bit of news we have here, if we pop it up.
There we go.
King of Fighters 15 has been revealed. Of course, this is a little awkward to talk about with who recently bought a huge stake in SNK. Yeah. But at least it's not the majority, I don't think, yet. I can't remember off the hand. But we got a reveal trailer, showed off the art style, bit the flashy elements. And I've never actually played any of the King of Fighters games myself. But I don't know. I think it looks pretty good. According to, basically in a video message, they said, as you just saw in the trailer, there were many flashy and bombastic action scenes, but can you tell us a little bit more about how the game will play? And the creative directors responded, sure thing. We're focusing on keeping the series staple of being fast-paced while also adding elements to make it more exciting. That's pretty generic. We're able to do things now for both sound and visuals that were impossible back when developing 14, so we're taking our time making sure each element is refined. Right now we're focusing on brushing up features and optimizing the game. They'll expect some obstacles to get in our way. We're planning to have it ready to ship this year. And as for other plans, they have another trailer coming out that'll be ready, I guess they said next week, which means this week. And they're actually also planning an animated promotional short directed by Masami Obari.
Whoa, what?
Yeah. Fatal Fury fans may know the best animating those awesome films in the 90s. That's right. I'm talking about the Masami Obari is how they put it. Wow. And I heard the King of Fighters, Fatal Fury movies, anime movies, were actually some of the best fighting game movies out there.
Oh my God. They're
ridiculous, but they're there.
I hate the Fatal Fury movie.
And
it's
really?
Not because of the quality of the movie. It is because my brother watched it so many times that he memorized the entire movie top to bottom. And I don't know if you guys have seen like the 90s dub of that movie, and I can't remember who it is because I've tried to erase it from my memory, but one of the characters has a very specific way. They say Terry Bogard. It's something like Terry Bogard, like every time. And my brother would just say it like into my ear so often that it drove me insane. That said, Masami Obari's a legend, and now I'm way more interested in KOF 15 than I was a minute ago.
Well, and now that Terry is in Smash, we got to turn it around and now have Xander Mobus be the announcer in KOF 15, and the collaboration will come full circle, right?
There you go.
No, this looks pretty cool. I'm watching the trailer right now. I'm not like a huge King of Fighters fan, but I like it, and I always thought 14, as a casual fan, I always thought 14 just felt and looked very bland as a fully 3D entry in the series. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm still biased toward KOF 13 because of the beautiful sprite work in that game. Beautiful sprite work.
Yep.
But I know they got to go 3D. That's the hot shit these days. I get it. But KOF 15 does look a lot better, in my opinion, than 14 did. It looks a lot flashier. Colors pop more. It just looks more just dynamic and exciting. And I'm definitely keeping an eye on this one. I enjoy the KOF cast. I think it's a I'm a huge Street Fighter fan, but I also really like King of Fighters and just kind of the wacky character designs and just the overall vibe of the series.
Are you a fan of King of Fighters, Spawnwave?
None of the new ones, not really.
Same.
I mean, I haven't played a single one of those games.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of like a cultural osmosis picked up on at least the character designs that are familiar with it. Although it's interesting that Terry is not in this trailer. They got Mai, of course,
right?
But no Terry. He'll be there.
I mean, visually it looks good, but I don't know. I kind of like the Guilty Gear one recently compared to this. So maybe that's just
that
me,
Guilty Gear game is looking gorgeous.
I guess it looks better. It looks all right. I guess King of Fighters.
Yeah,
15. I don't know. We'll see more of it. I guess
the Guilty Gear series is that perfect compromise between wanting gorgeous 2D sprite work and the realities of how much easier it is to just build 3D models. And I think that Guilty Gear looks like what I imagined fighting games would look like in 20 years when I was playing them in the 90s. So I'm right there with you, Spawn. I really, really wish that more large fighting games, like big name fighting games, would go more toward that aesthetic than the...
Or Dragon Ball Z Fighters. There you go. You got it in the chat right there.
I wish they'd ditch the pseudo-realism we're starting to get in fighting games.
In the audience,
got to bring in the people for like the Mortal Kombat scans.
Oh, right.
Do that again.
Perfect.
In the audience, we have a name I haven't seen. Number one Shark Tale fan. Hi, I've been watching since the start. Glad I can support you guys. I love that name, and thank you so much for being here. I love that name.
Is,
and also,
quite the thing to be a fan of.
Yeah, exactly. And also, Summoner's Faith. Good vibes all around. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and also shout-outs to you for your name, because I am also a huge Final Fantasy X fan. So, awesome name there.
There you go. But yeah, no, I saw somebody asking if there were any platforms announced, and no, not yet. But we are getting a trailer, so maybe we'll get some more details and see what actually comes of it. But yeah, 14 of these games I've not played a single one, so whoops. But our next story, once we pop this bad boy up, is something we're all interested in.
Yeah.
As limited run games have announced a physical version of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, which, I think we're all going to be attempting to get, because I think, the fact that it was digital only for so long and it left is like, okay, we want to have this piece of gaming history. And there's a lot of really cool, fun extras. There's a classic edition that features Deluxe clamshell retro box, the CD soundtrack, a folded overworld map, a sticker sheet. And then the KO edition features everything from that, plus some more extra goodies, and an authentic hardshell roadie case box with a pop-up scene with working lights and Anamanaguchi music. So it actually has a stage of the what they call the sex bombs.
That is awesome.
On stage playing with Anamanaguchi music coming out of it. That is insane.
That's so great. And I mean, and of course I have to mention maybe the coolest part of all this, even after all that, Brian Lee O'Malley's Sonic Adventure tribute box art. Like,
yep.
Scott looks so dumb and goofy in that weird Sonic pose. That was already a weird pose, right? Even when Sonic was making it was already a weird pose. But to see Scott taking the same pose is just it warms my heart. And I just, it's it is emblematic of everything that Scott Pilgrim is in terms of gaming nostalgia and just the sheer love for gaming that Scott Pilgrim embodies. I love this so much.
I like the deluxe plastic clamshell. It kind of looks like a Genesis.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And you got Ramona on there
Yeah,
instead, which
Genesis
is cool. You
vibe
got
to
both
it.
Scott and Ramona, and doing. Is Ramona copying Amy Rose's pose? I actually forgot to look that
don't
up.
think so. It was done by a different artist than Brian Lee O'Malley was
Oh, okay.
said. So I don't think it's doing that exact reference.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm gonna get the classic edition one, the one that has that case like right in the middle there at 55.
Uh-huh.
That's what I'm gonna go with. The one with the case. It looks really cool. The pop up one, but that's one I wouldn't want to open.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
want to leave it sealed. I'd feel really bad
Yeah.
about opening that. So yeah.
I mean,
tough.
even the standard box art is just awesome. Like the one with the Scott with his fists clenched and all the evil X's up above. I mean, it's just even that one's super cool. I'm like a big Scott Pilgrim fan. I'm totally geeking out about this.
Yeah,
Oh, it looks.
I'll
this
be the
looks
first
great.
to admit I'm not super familiar with Scott Pilgrim, like the comic book property. I've seen
Read
the Michael
the
Cera movie, and I've played the game multiple times, and I really like it. But yeah, I do need to find time.
Which is
to
funny
read
because
all
the game
kinds
has a
of
lot of
things.
references to the comic itself more than the movie.
Yeah, like the movie's great, and you should
Yeah.
watch that for sure. But like the books are just a whole nother experience. Like it's such a good story, and the movie does its best to fit that whole story into an hour and a half or so. But it doesn't quite land the same way. But it's still worth watching for the visual effects alone.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to read the book. I liked the movie. I love the game.
Oh, you saw the movie? Okay.
Yeah, I've seen the Michael Cera movie. I just haven't read
Okay, cool.
the source material, so I need to get through
Gotcha.
that. But yeah, I would probably just pick up like the standard edition. I mean, I just want to
Yeah,
have
same.
it because I was one of those people that bought it on PS3, I think,
Yep.
and then just couldn't get
It's
it
still
anymore.
on my
And I was
PS3.
like, damn. I remember telling my brother, I was like, yeah, we should play that again. And I had gotten rid of my PS3, and I was like, maybe I'll just go pick up like a used one
no.
or whatever. And just lo and behold, I was out of luck. So
Yeah.
If I remember right, the DLC, you needed to get the DLC, I think, to access the online
Yes.
multiplayer, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken with that. That was a weird situation at the time. And then if you didn't get the DLC, obviously you couldn't get it after it got delisted. So, like, it was a whole mess of a situation. But I'm glad that they're bringing it back and, like, rectifying that whole thing.
yeah.
And they did it right. Everything looks really good with all three of these editions. So I don't think you're wrong
Yeah,
with
I
that.
cannot
Yeah.
wait to play this again. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm gonna play it real soon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
out
like I
this
said,
week.
my only concern is my recent experience with limited run is that it takes them a while to get you the game.
That's
That's,
the
the only
thing.
thing I've
Yeah.
run into.
Yeah.
But so I'm gonna buy it digitally when it comes out on the 14th, and then I'll just get order the physical copy, and it'll be a really cool delivery in 2026.
DJ Bass says, for what it's worth, Death Battle did pit Ramona versus Amy once. I did not know that, and I've watched plenty of Death Battles. So
Wow. I
haven't
thank
watched
you
them in a
for
while.
the bit of knowledge there. I need to watch that. And also, Griff says we need a Scott the Woz versus the world. And yes, I completely agree. Let's have a
man.
follow up made just for that.
Scott Pilgrim.
Nice.
Oh boy. Well, all right. Let's go ahead and jump over to our next topic. And this is a little bit of good news for a certain franchise because I saw this. I was like, well, we got to talk about this because I didn't expect it. So Pikmin 3 Deluxe is the fastest selling of the franchise in Japan, and it's actually soon to be the best selling of the franchise in Japan. Of course, that's has that little bit of asterisk there. But hey, at least it's doing well. According to this, it has sold. Let me see here. It has sold 499,000 units in Japan. Pikmin 2 sold roughly 480,000, while the original did over 500. And again, that's just physical numbers for those. So yeah, Pikmin 3 right on track, if not better than the other ones. Not by a huge margin, but enough to be like, okay, that's nice. That's healthy, and maybe Nintendo will finally give us Pikmin 4, maybe. Possibly.
It's so weird that they haven't. Like, it is so weird that it has been so long, and Pikmin remains really, widely loved by, the Nintendo community, and yet just Pikmin 4 is not here. It's not on the table. I know there have been stories here and there that it's been maybe caught in some form of development hell, that Miyamoto was working on it, I think, quite a while ago, or at least that was the rumor. So don't know what happened to it. Pikmin isn't my thing as much personally, so I don't have too much to say about it, but I'm glad that Pikmin 3 Deluxe seems to have appealed to the fans so much, and hopefully this does open the door for Pikmin 4.
So in about 2.5 weeks, Nintendo will have information come out about their sales ending December. So they'll probably give us like a hard number on Pikmin 3 Deluxe overall. But it seems like it's just part of the Switch effect. Just games Nintendo releases on the Switch, even if they released them last gen, just do well because a lot of people didn't buy the Wii U and now they have a Switch.
Right.
So
why not?
They buy, which is good because that means a lot of franchises that maybe got swept up a little bit last gen get like a whole new shot this gen. And hey, that also means that maybe Metroid has a chance finally at doing something. So like seeing Pikmin 3 get these kind of sales is very hopeful for some of these games coming up. And I do wonder about Pikmin 4 though, because we heard it was rebooted a couple times and it's been a really strange story about its development. I almost feel like they're overthinking Pikmin 4 to where they feel like they have to have some like Miyamoto, or it has to feel like it has to be some wild concept to be like, just so different. And I feel like if they're overthinking it a bit, and if they just, brought out another Pikmin game, people would just be really happy to have another Pikmin game.
Yeah.
We actually talked about that. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I have a funny anecdote about Pikmin 4, which, how many times can you say that, right? My friend, Ben Bertoli, he's an author. He got his first weekend gig running Kotaku. Like, they were like, hey, man, we're just going to trust you. You're unproven, but whatever. And that was like when that Miyamoto statement about Pikmin 4 came out, and he had no clue what to do. They were like, look, you got to run everything you write through an editor at Kotaku, because again, he was like probationary. And he was like, guys, they just announced Pikmin 4. Like, what am I supposed to do? And he was struggling to put together a story about it. And they were like, you have to run it through. And I think he like just put it up, and they got real mad at him. And then they realized like, oh no, he was actually right. Miyamoto did say Pikmin 4, but there was like a huge, like he was in hot water for a minute with them.
Boy.
But I want to say, I think at that time, because that was years ago now, I bet that was, what was the 3DS game? Hey Pikmin?
Yeah.
I
You think it
truly
became
believe
Hey
that
Pikmin?
when Miyamoto was making those Pikmin 4 statements that long ago, that he was talking about Hey Pikmin. I could be...
Right.
I don't think he ever clarified if that's what he meant, and if that is what he meant, shame on you. I hope you learned your lesson.
Yeah. According to Rob R-Man X, Miyamoto said that Hey Pikmin was not Pikmin 4, so...
Well, then that is
that?
even more confusing because, it feels like at this point we should know something about Pikmin 4. I agree with Spawn that if that's the case, then they have to just be really deeply overthinking or over-engineering Pikmin 4. Like, because if you just give us a logical sequel, I would be fine with that. I think the Pikmin games are charming as hell. I would play another one in a heartbeat.
Introduce a few new
if I got
Pikmins,
it.
have some new puzzles, and boom, there you go.
Well, and we kind of talked about that same Miyamoto anecdote a few episodes ago when talking about F-Zero and how, Miyamoto suggested once that, they didn't want to bring out a new F-Zero until they had some sort of gimmick, some sort of, wild betrayal of expectations that they could anchor to the game. And when most, if not all, F-Zero fans are just like, we don't care. Just give us F-Zero. We just want 8 high def, 60 FPS F-Zero. Like, we don't care. We don't need any gimmicks. Don't need anything new, whatever. It's just give us F-Zero. And I feel like that's the same thing that's maybe happening here, as you guys said. Just don't overthink it.
They're gonna Star Fox Adventures.
Oh no!
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're right.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. And Lucasfilm Games is going to be the official name for all titles coming from, what else? Lucasfilm, which speaks more to the fact that it doesn't look like EA is going to have the exclusive Star Wars license anymore. So it's now Lucasfilm Games for all gaming titles from Lucasfilm. And they have they put out a sizzle reel for what they're planning. And it's just more from that. And I guess they're just going to be sort of. It's being speculated they're just going to be shopping out ideas for Star Wars, or I guess Indiana Jones if they're doing Lucasfilm to do more games based off it. So
Right.
I'm sure this makes some people happy. Also, it'd make people really happy if they brought back their adventure games from LucasArts, but
Yes.
see.
You know what makes me a little upset about this news? Star
What's that?
Wars 1313 looked dope, and it died, so that they could like diversify or whatever it is they ended up doing, and now Lucasfilm is kind of back. I don't know.
guess.
Star Wars 1313 looked cool. It could have survived if they had just not done what they did, but
Yeah.
So I'm confused. How far are they taking this exactly? Because they're still showing games from EA and everything in it.
Yeah. They
I'm
haven't
not really
really
sure what they're doing exactly
said.
here. Is this a new studio, or is this just a name that they're going to use to license
it's
out
the-
to other
I think it's the
studios? Because I know Aspire's been doing a lot of like remaster or like remakes for them. I guess it'd be called remasters, like Pod Racer and Jedi Academy and Jedi Outcast. Are they just going to go back and say, hey, do you want to take this old property and bring it up, or are they going to say, hey, you want to make a whole new Star Wars game? We just got to look over it for merchandising purposes and all of this to make sure you're not doing some weird stuff with Darth Vader or something. Like, is that? I guess that's what it is, because it's interesting. Because I thought it was just EA. Like,
I
if you
think
want new
their-
games, you got to go to EA.
I think their
but-
contract was only for 10 years, and that's about to run out. Which really makes you think about how few games they put out under Star Wars under EA.
Yeah.
That's-
Yep. Because it sounds like Respawn's working on another Fallen
Which is
Order.
good, because I've seen a lot of love for
So-
that in the chat. I have it, I've not played it.
Oh, it's amazing. I love Fallen Order. It's one of my favorite
is
games
really
last
good.
year.
Nice.
I think. Yep, I think everyone should be. Well, now we're in 20 year before that. I think everyone should be playing it though. It is very good. It's kind of like faux Dark Souls Star Wars, but it's very good. I really enjoyed it. I thought the original story was good for a video game, and then the ending was pretty fun.
I did
So,
a discussion about it with Kinda Funny about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and I'm like a casual Star Wars fan. I enjoyed what I played of the game. I didn't play the whole thing, but the thing, you got to tell me, man, does Cal ever get any more interesting? I couldn't. He was such a nothing character to me, and I just could not care about him.
I think towards the end they do some things towards the ending to try to get you more interested
Okay.
a bit, because they tie some of the universe together with a certain character. But I would say it gets a bit more interesting towards
Okay.
the end when they start doing what they did in like The Mandalorian and stuff recently, and they bring in familiar characters.
Gotcha.
So
Because I enjoyed the game otherwise.
I just like the gameplay of it and like the quality of the game outside of the bugs that I think got worked out for the most part.
I think they
It's
have.
good.
Yeah, when I saw Fallen Order, I was just like, oh, is it a new, I guess a Dark Souls variation of Force Unleashed? Because I played the Force Unleashed games,
Yes.
and I actually enjoyed I enjoyed the story of the first game. Really, just only enjoyed the first game. The second game was, oof, not good. But yeah, I found Starkiller to be at least interesting, and Sam, I think it was Sam Witwer who did the stuff for that. He went on to do a lot of Star Wars stuff within Clone Wars and whatnot. And I don't really hear the same sort of love for Cal.
I think people were just confused that there was no microtransactions and it wasn't online only or anything, because the entire time they were asked that, they went to like the Star Wars like convention and they had to answer on stage that there was no microtransactions, and they never put anything in. They actually added free DLC.
You know,
so
after,
it was very
after
weird.
watching that sizzle trailer, which I admittedly did not get to watch before the show, I kind of am of the feeling that this is just like a umbrella name for all Star Wars games, regardless of who publishes them. I don't think this is like a studio or a publisher. I think it's just kind of a marketing thing, because
a name that flashes up
exactly,
right
because
when
you're not
the game
you're not
starts.
going to publish a trailer that includes not just games published by EA but the EA logo in it, unless you're going to keep that partnership going. So I think it's just new window dressing on the same stuff we've been seeing.
Yeah.
Just preparing for maybe a future without exclusive EA games.
I could see that, because I mean they showed Fortnite in there, so
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it seemed weird that they wanted to tie Star Wars to one company with EA. There's just a lot of potential to go elsewhere with it as well. So, but Disney just said they weren't interested in going to a bunch of different. They didn't want to develop any games, but I feel like you could take your properties and just license them out without too much issue. So maybe they're going to do that. That'd be cool.
I can see that. But yeah, we'll see what.
Be interesting before we move on is if we see one of the big three approach Disney and see if they want to do an exclusive Star Wars game like a Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo. Like I think Microsoft would do really well bankrolling a Star Wars game for their Xbox or Game Pass.
Oh man,
service.
if you got a brand new Star Wars game, like a AAA Star Wars game on Game Pass, that would be massive for Microsoft, and they need something right now. I think Sony is very clearly winning the battle in terms of hype. For in the next gen or the early.
Well, if you think about what Microsoft has right now with some of their studios they picked up, they could very well do like a KOTOR 3.
Yep. Oh yeah.
That would be so cool.
That would be interesting.
I would love that.
I was trying to remember the point I was going to make, but Jared Ediger kind of reminded me because of Steve bringing up Star Wars. What was it, 1313?
Yep.
That's reviving something like that is a very good idea, especially with how popular Mandalorian is right now.
Yeah,
a bounty hunting game would definitely do well.
Watch is like a video game.
Yeah,
like
I've heard that. I've only seen the first 3 episodes, but yeah, it's.
Oh, it's good. It's good. Yeah, that would be. I can't believe I can't believe they haven't done it yet.
Yeah,
maybe they will. Maybe they will do a Mandalorian video game.
I could see it. I could totally see it.
Yep.
But all right, let's go ahead and move on to our final topic for the evening.
Oh, I saw Rogue Squadron in the chat.
Oh, a new Rogue Squadron.
Let's get a new Rogue Squadron on the Switch. That would be cool.
All right. Last one is Square Enix has trademarked Ever Crisis, the First Soldier, and the Shinra logo in Japan, which has led to quite a bit of speculation. Because you hear Crisis, you think of Before Crisis, you think of Crisis Core. You hear First Soldier, you think of Sephiroth, and of course you got Shinra. And it seems like something's going on with the Final Fantasy VII licensed beyond remake. When I first saw this news, my first thought was, oh, they're making a mobile title.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, mobile does seem very possible. What I would like at least Ever Crisis to be, I don't want to spoil anything for people who haven't finished FF7 Remake, but things go in a certain direction at the end of that game that runs counter to your expectations if you've played the original FF7. And so I just like the idea of Ever Crisis being a new take on Before Crisis, kind of giving us a new version of events that we kind of see.
Or, actually letting us play Before Crisis.
That too. Yeah, right. So I don't think that's what this is. It probably is something like mobile or not nearly as cool as I'm hoping it is, but I was so into what they did with the ending of 7 Remake, and I want more. I want more of this remake story and remake universe, and so I would love for that to be an alternate take on Before Crisis, or at least Ever Crisis. But who the hell knows, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's a smart thing to do, right? To start trademarking everything and start coming up with merchandise and new games and build this into an entire universe. Because Final Fantasy VII's that popular, you could do it. You could make 8 video games out of this if you want to.
Knowing Square, they will. Yeah, I'm with you guys though.
They got 3 out of 13. So
yeah.
I'm with you guys in that I think that I want this to be something that further explores the remake universe, and I'm not entirely convinced it won't be, but I think that it'll probably end up being some mobile game I have zero interest in, and right. it'll be ultimately deflating, but it'll be one of those things like it's presented in the worst possible way, but contains some interesting lore that you probably want to know.
Oh, so
I'll
Kingdom
end up
Hearts
watching someone play it on YouTube.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts on mobile. Real quick, I was going to mention this, and then Juan brought it up as well. Something I didn't realize until today was somebody else mentioning this. So the Ever Crisis thing is actually interesting because every Final Fantasy VII spinoff thing has a blank C word as a name. So you got Advent Children, Before Crisis, Crisis Core, Dirge of Cerberus. So you got AC, BC, CC, DC.
Right.
And now with Ever Crisis, we got EC. So
interesting. Yeah. I remember that used to be a thing, but I completely did not make that connection here.
So without spoiling the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, do you think this could actually be like
a Crisis Core remake is, for lack of a better term.
Could we get 2 games? Could we get 2 games after what happens with Final Fantasy VII Remake follow in different paths? I guess is the best way to say it.
Maybe.
I think they'll be wildly different in terms of how they're presented, but yeah, I think we could.
Yeah.
I think it's possible.
Because you can almost look at Ever Crisis like sort of almost a different type of sequel, almost Ever Crisis after Crisis Core.
That's true too.
And somebody mentioned like if Ever Crisis did like before Crisis was about the Turks, let's redo that idea and let you play as Reno Rude saying, introduce Elena.
Can they just bring Crisis Core up
to
like all the platforms now?
I really
can they just do that?
We need a Crisis Core remake or just even a port.
How have they not? I don't know how they haven't done that yet. That's weird. It's just on the PSP.
I think it's gacked. Yeah.
Yeah, you have that licensing with gacked. It's why I don't think Dirge of Cerberus is there.
Is that not doable? Can we not just replace gacked?
Who knows what the ins and outs of their contract are, right? I mean, it did seem for a while like they were planning on, revisiting gacked with a potential, Final Fantasy VII 2. Like, it seemed like they were setting up Genesis to be the big new villain in a potential FF7 sequel, but that never materialized. So, maybe they're still, bound to use Gackt's likeness if they ever want to use the Genesis character. Who knows?
Well, they replaced. I mean, we've had Spider-Man replaced, so can we have this replaced?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Genesis also was kind of just a wet fart of a character in general. I mean, I enjoyed Genesis for the ridiculous Square Enix-isms that he embodied. He's very much a Square Enix villain, but not a good one necessarily. But he was fun to watch just because it was easy to kind of laugh at him. Just like you're so goofy, man. Come on, I'm supposed to take you seriously. Come next to Sephiroth and Angeal and Zack. Come on.
I have seen people especially with the first Soldier trademark. Of course, everybody thinks of Sephiroth, and a game where you play as Sephiroth. That would be something.
That'd be pretty good. That'd be
kind of built off of him being in Smash and all that. Probably not intentional, but still, that's.
How do you tackle that though? Because Sephiroth's supposed to just feel more powerful than everyone,
right?
Like, how do you make a character that's basically like Superman in that universe?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, you just basically just roll around with like this 20-foot sword and just take everything out.
You play as another character with Sephiroth. And then whenever you power up a meter, all of a sudden you take over as Sephiroth, so you could just lay waste to everything.
There you go.
That would be. I mean, people wouldn't mind just destroying everything.
Yeah, it would have to be a ridiculously easy game. Like the hardest decision is who do I burn?
We have kid versions of everything. We have kid Sephiroth where he's just learning it.
Now you've been a naughty boy, Sephiroth.
I feel like you just make the game called that. Just Kid Sephiroth.
I mean, that would be that's still a good idea for a game. And what would the title be? It would be would you say it was First Soldier?
Yeah, it was just the First Soldier. Yeah,
that's a good name that's a pretty good name for a game.
Final Fantasy VII, the First Soldier
or something. Yeah, that's a good name.
Juan says they teased Genesis in FF7 Remake, but I'm trying to remember where they did that.
So I thought they referenced Dirge of Cerberus, but then it turned out to be its own thing.
Okay.
Because they talked about underground laboratories, so I thought they were teasing
deep ground.
Deep ground exists.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, and then it was just like, oh no, there's actually an underground lab in this version. So there you go.
Nice.
Oh man, Rob Arman X has a great idea. Along with Dusk Mirage, FF7 Warriors, and Sephiroth Muso. I could get behind a Final Fantasy Warriors game, or even just an FF7 Warriors game. That would be pretty.
I mean, that would make sense. Just Sephiroth on a rampage.
Yeah, or just Sephiroth. Yeah.
I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah.
The opening level is Nibelheim. No one's trying to fight.
No.
First boss is Tifa's dad, and it's not a boss.
Terrible.
Honestly, there are enough characters in Final Fantasy VII between the villains, the heroes, the Turks, the Sephiroth, and everything else.
Oh,
you could get a cast as big as Age of Calamity.
That's true. Also, we're getting a few answers from Arkwing, Juan, and Dusk Mirage. Hojo mentioned G-Series soldiers during the meeting in the
right, the G-Cells.
Yeah, they mentioned G-Cells. Hojo said
I
soldiers
did
have
forget
SMG
about that.
types. Right. Okay. Thanks for reminding us, guys.
Yeah.
Let me play as Bugenhagen or Bugenhagen. That would be so. That would be wild.
Oh god.
I like Michael Phone in the chat in reference to the Sephiroth game Aerith boss fight, which is the most messed up thing.
Oh.
That would be a stealth section, obviously.
Yeah, seriously.
That'd be a real fast quick time event.
I'm part of me is not excited by this because again, my first thought was mobile, but if it's not mobile, color me interested because it's like if we get a holdover until Remake 2, Part 2. Yes, please. I would take that.
What do you think that's coming out, Remake 2?
2023. I was going to say 2022.
Yeah.
I'm saying 2023.
I'm going to say early 2023. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, early 2023. Yeah, I was kind of hoping they'd get it out in 2022 because I assume in 3 months it's going to go to the Xbox at least, and then PC because they'll do like the timed exclusivity thing. Yeah, I mean, I was hoping it would hit 2022. We might be right.
But give me, you know what though? If you give me Remake 1 with ray tracing, I'll play through the whole thing again.
I
feel like when it released on the Xbox, they're going to get like a next gen patch for it as well for the PlayStation 5 at the same time, and that would be cool because they can fix that PlayStation 1 door and they can add in like ray tracing.
I want them waiting for that to replay.
I want them to fix everything but the PlayStation 1 door, like all these beautiful lighting effects and just this low poly ass door.
And then my character won't like start walking randomly because it has to load the area in front of me.
Oh yeah.
Like get rid of all like those little passageways that you have to like sidle through the whole.
All of a sudden you're going through and it's like, you just all of a sudden start moving a lot quicker.
I'm so excited to replay that game though. Like when a next gen patch does come out. I want to replay.
I mean, I planned it. I'll do it again. I don't care, except for the dresses.
Yeah.
I can't do the dresses again. That was nightmarish to get all the dresses. But good stuff. But yeah, as of that is all of our news that we had to catch up on since our last TNT. We are planning to do the rest of the 2020 reflection video. I believe, though, we were saying tomorrow, but Ash, you have a thing going on tomorrow, so it's likely
it's my
Thursday
fault.
We're going to record it.
If you guys will recall, my mom is recovering from surgery, and she's still recovering. She's doing fine. But a couple of months ago, right after we launched the channel, actually, I took her out. She loves going on drives in the mountains, like in the backcountry. So I took her on a drive just to get her out of the house and, just kind of lift her spirits a bit. And I'm doing the same thing with her again tomorrow. So going to take her on a nice drive and just kind of, lift her spirits, get her out of the house. So I apologize for that, but we are going to be doing it on Thursday now. So that it's still happening. You're still getting the extra episode. It's just Thursday instead of tomorrow. Yeah,
we're having we should be having a regular episode on Wednesday, then do the extra thing so we can crank out 2020 and then, keep it going. So get 3 episodes of TNT and 1 episode of last year tonight.
Right.
Yeah. We'll bring back the logo.
It's funny. Everyone saying hashtag Mama Paulson mention in the chat. I know you mean well, but don't let her see you say that because she kept her last name and she's very particular about that. So it's actually Mama Todd mention. Her name's Parish Todd, so Mama Todd mention is the way you want to go.
There you go.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I guess that covers it for tonight's news. So thank you all so much for watching. And Spawnwave, thank you so much for joining. This was a lot of fun. Where can everyone find you at?
Oh, you can find me on YouTube, Spawnwave. Come on by. I'm there most mornings. Just trying to talk about video game news. I'm around. Oh, and I got the Atari VCS.
Oh, dude, I watched that video.
Nice.
That thing is weird.
Yeah, it's very strange. So I don't recommend buying one. I'll say that.
I was going to say, what is that? Is that like another micro console or?
Yeah, it's like a micro PC that almost costs the same as a Series X when you get everything you need for it.
Hell?
Yeah,
So,
and
I probably
it
wouldn't buy it.
streams retro games. Like,
it was very weird. Yeah, because I streamed Mortal Kombat, the arcade version, which looks like the 16-bit game on there. It's very weird, and you stream it like it's like Stadia or something.
Yeah.
Well, the most important question though: does it keep your chicken warm?
Yeah, this one doesn't, so I feel a little ripped off.
What's
but
the point?
that KFC console is. I'm gonna try to get one. So we'll see.
Just put
I
in
think
some
Steve, you said you were going to try to
to
as well, right?
oh, I absolutely am going to try to get one of those.
Oh my
I'm going to try
God.
to edit a video on the KFC console because I guarantee
man.
it's a PC in there. I'm gonna see can
top
rendering
10
a
top
4K
10 chickens
YouTube
in
video
gaming.
cook my chicken.
Top 10 chickens in gaming, and then obviously like in between each number, you just like have a video of yourself pulling out a piece of chicken from the console and taking a bite. Oh god!
Ray from
I need
Arcade
that
says
damn
the
thing in
chicken
my
better be
life.
part of the review. You do have to review the chicken itself as well, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, dude. If I could get paid to review chicken, I wouldn't be in games, baby. I got dreams too, man.
Right? Yeah. Good point. Good point.
There we go.
I need to be an ice cream reviewer. I need to get paid to review new Ben and Jerry's
Oh,
flavors.
I'd be huge.
I know, right? Me too. Yeah.
I just lost this way. Don't give it back.
Yeah.
All right. With that, what was that, Steve?
Oh no, I was gonna say anyway. You know, if
Oh.
Spawn does get a KFC console, I will be first in line to watch the teardown. Like I want to
Same.
know how it keeps.
Yeah, that would be an
I want to know
interesting
how it
one.
keeps the grease off the components, man. That has been my question from day
It
one.
probably doesn't. Seriously.
Air fryer. Oh boy, but yeah, of course, before we sign off, we have to give a special thanks to all of our patrons, no matter what tier you subscribe, support us at. It's all so appreciated, really is. But we also have to give a special thank you to everyone at our producer tier for helping to make this show happen. Again, couldn't do it without you. You all are amazing. And then, of course, there's our massive thank you to our patrons at the executive producer tier and above. And those fine folks include, we got a list, Rob Arman X, Dan Entwistle, Z Patty, Adam O'Sullivan, Floating Mew, Christopher, The D-Pad, Vesmio, Waffle King, Kieran Phillips, Benny Yao, Rosa Bowling.
Hi, Mom.
I was going to say, say hi to your mother. Geller, Shiny Turkey, Titus Malvolio, Jake Pelka, Michael Phone, Mitchell Herring, Game Explain, Charles Zaz, Andrew Medeiros, Jonathan Belmare, Kitty Kong Fax, Patrick Harrison, Scott Barber, Evernight Studio, Rocks the Cat, Loyal Dingo, Azran127, Phantom 23, Sean Garrett, Shadow the Cat, Guillaume Monet, Kai Ed, Kit Fisto, Orem M, Top Dog 23100, and our new executive producers that just joined us for this show, started joining us for this show: West Egg, Master Link X, Sean Davis, Deaneth, Jackson Jordan, Lucky Wonderfish, Brandon Bovia, Octopuppet, and Charlie Bird. Holy crap. I think there's 45 of you now. That's insane.
Gonna have to speed up
We
the
are
scroll.
so lucky. Thank you all so much.
My God.
And by the way, for those of you who are newcomers to this tier, if you have a preferred pronunciation or an alternate name that we read out instead, just message us on Patreon and we'll make sure to get that done.
Absolutely. But remember that you too can become a patron over at patreon.com/gvgaming, where you can watch today's news tonight live for as little as $5 a month. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to Good Vibes Gaming for more good times like these. And until next time, good night, good vibes.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.